Traveling the Vortex.
We join the Doctor as he travels the Vortex and arrive at episode 555. And short of a red-hot poker, this podcast is a direct route from the people's ears to your hearts. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
How's it going?
Pretty good.
Getting your pokers all heated up?
Got mine in the fire stoking right now.
Nice.
I'm still trying to find a format that will do me justice.
You just need one that will let you be louder.
Did anybody do anything this week? We had another short time between recordings, so not a lot of time to do stuff, but I didn't do a darn thing, so I'll just start off. I didn't do anything.
Me neither.
I got my Disney reservations made.
Oh, good.
Like for the restaurants and all that jazz.
Yeah,
so.
That's exciting.
Now, hey, question. Glenn, you were down there relatively recently, right?
12
or was
years,
it Keith that went down?
12 years
which
ago.
One? Oh, then
I've never been. So
you've never been at all.
Yeah.
Well, you two are worthless to me.
Mm-hmm.
For any of our listeners out there that would like to help a fellow Disney file, are the make your own lightsabers at Galaxy's Edge worth it? Are they like master replica quality, or are they more like it's a toy? Get back to me and let me know.
Just from the YouTube videos that I've watched of people making them and review them, it sounds like it's probably somewhere in the middle.
Is it only the hilt, or do you get a blade too?
Oh, you get a blade too.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't do you much good without the blade.
Well, if you get to design your own hilt, that's pretty cool.
How am I supposed to go strike down Kylo Ren if I don't have a blade? I didn't do a very good job if I didn't get a blade. No, I had told Mel that was kind of the one thing.
It's
like,
expensive though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a $200 and some odd experience, or plus. And I was like, well, that'll be my souvenir, but that's what I want. And she was okay with that. And then tonight, actually, Shai saw a little thing on Disney Channel about the Build Your Own Droid factory.
Mm-hmm. That's what I want.
And now she's real excited over that, even though I know that those are toys. It's like, well, I guess if it's a choice between me getting something or her getting something, she's going to win because she always wins.
The droid's what I want. I think the droid's cool.
But I'd rather if it's a toy lightsaber or kind of an in between thing, I'd rather just walk into the shop and buy one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Other than that, we didn't do anything either.
We got a new car. Finally, to replace the G6, because, well, the G6, which was Caitlin was driving, went out way back in like October, and actually it was going out, and I started driving it in August and sent her back to school with the Ultima, which is the one I used to drive, and then the G6 finally went out, so we'd been borrowing my parents' car. They had a spare car. Of course, they don't drive it. It sits in their garage all the time because they've got two cars and they only drive one car. But we'd been borrowing it for a while, and I just looking for something else we could afford. But cars have been so hard to get a hold of, and used cars for sure. And then ridiculously expensive, high rates on interest rates on loan. But we finally found something in our price range, a 2017 Kia Sportage. It's navy blue, really pretty. So
nice.
We finally got it.
You also now have a TARDIS.
Yes, I do. It's a darker one, but
it's a blue vehicle. That's all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
We are going on a journey, a very long journey, through the world of the Target novelizations in publication order. Every week, we are looking at a new book, talking about Terrence Dicks, Malcolm Hulk, and all our Doctor Who novelization friends. Whatever you do, keep turning the pages. This is Jason Miller of the Doctor Who Literature Podcast, a member of the Direction Point Podcast Network, and you are listening to Traveling the Vortex, a Direction Point podcast.
Well, we didn't have any news happening this week, so and I don't think anybody did any something new 2-minute review materials. So let's move on and just get right to the meat of our discussion, which is our Beep the Meep Adversary Archive.
Wouldn't that make it the Meep of our discussion?
Of course, we reviewed the Star Beast and the comic strip adaptations of Doctor Who and the Star Beast just a few weeks back. So we will maybe just refer back to those, but we're not going to obviously re-review those. But this week we did a set of pieces to kind of wrap up Beep's storyline. We did Beep the Meep Gets 3,000 Years, Star Beast 2, The Ratings War, TV Action, and Who on Earth is Beep the Meep? And we're going to do these somewhat in chronological order. So let's start with the little blurb in the Doctor Who Weekly number 30, which is Beep the Meep Gets 3,000 Years. Which is really just kind of a funny article. Like newspaper clipping, really.
And Glenn just recapped the story for you.
That's pretty much it. No, I thought this was kind of neat. Actually, when we put this archive together, I came across this one late, and so I added it because I thought it was kind of cute. And the reason I added it or found it is because it's alluded to in one of the other things that we're going to review. But I'm going to even just read this one. This will be the first time we read something in full that we're reviewing. Beep the Meep Gets 3,000 Years. A galactic court sat yesterday to hear the case against one of the deadliest outlaws ever known, Beep the Meep. I love how it says the Wrath Warriors, which is already wrong. The Warriors, Sergeant Zogroth and Constable Grieg, who first formed the Galactic Law Enforcement Posse that was eventually successful in capturing the Meep, gave evidence against him. Throughout the trial, Beep growled and hurled abuse at the jury. Judge Strickler Skaggs said that it was one of the worst cases he had heard in centuries. The Meep will serve a 3,000-year sentence in one of the universe's top security prisons. So this kind of picks up and gives you a little what happened after Star Beast vibe, which I thought was kind of cool and kind of clever. And I'm glad that I found it because it really kind of is a neat start to everything that we're getting ready to review as well.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Nice little recap.
Had I stumbled upon it, while reading Doctor Who magazine, I would have been really impressed that they just included a quick little thing like that.
Really excited about it.
Well, and you know what? The part that I was most excited by was the idea that the warriors that we see in Star Beast, they're not just they're not just policemen. They're not just the Jadoon coming together. No. These are the guys that formed the posse.
Yeah, right.
Which brings to mind Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. It's the Floors and the Straw Hat. And now I want a story where Beep the Meep is on the run from these guys. All the misadventures that happen to be for Star Beast with just them chasing him.
That would be fun.
It would.
Of course, the next little bit that features Beep is the Star Beast 2, which is actually a follow-up to the Star Beast. This, although, is not a ongoing story. It is one encapsulated comic in Doctor Who Yearbook 1996. Who wants to go first on this one?
I enjoyed this one. I thought it was a fun revisit of the character, albeit a kind of briefer story, and him kind of, being true to form. I was glad that they addressed the fact of how he got out of prison and the way he, manipulates everyone as he always attempts to. And then just the simple aspect of it of him going back to Earth and wanting to get his Black Star drive back to enslave, and the Doctor just happened to be there and dispatching him fairly quickly in a fairly easy manner, but it was enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was kind of unique too how he captured him. Kind of a bit silly, but also kind of different. I mean, it's not something that you see very often, trapping him in a Lassie film.
Yeah. Not entirely sure how that works, but I'll allow it.
Yeah, you know, comics. We get a reunion with Fudge, who's now fully grown and working in the theater.
I'm stuck on it was a little silly, but I'll allow it. It's like we are talking about Beep the Meep, right?
Right.
Who is also a little silly, and I'll allow him.
Yes, that's any element of this story is like, yeah, okay. Which that's the endearing quality of Beep the Meep, is that he's just so ridiculous. Most high, of course, but ridiculous.
I think it's a fairly clever concept for a villain. I mean, the unassuming, cute nature of him, puts people on their back foot. And once, it's kind of like sometimes some cats are this way. You think they're cute and adorable, and then they turn out to be evil. He's the same way.
Yeah.
So just for the record, you're comparing Beep the Meep to a cat.
Oh yeah, he's definitely a cat.
He's definitely a cat. Okay.
You don't think so?
Oh no. If I were to classify him as an animal, he's not a dog. That's for sure. He's definitely more cat-like.
And chinchillas, while he looks like a chinchilla, chinchillas aren't that evil.
He's a mix between a cat and a chinchilla.
He has a cat's soul in a chinchilla's body.
We talk about how kind of silly it is he trapped in a film, but at least they tried to explain. I mean, it's very technobabble and very blah. No, that's not really how that works that way. But at least they give us some technobabble to give some meaning to why it works.
Yeah, since the black light drive and all of that doesn't quite make sense anyways, you can just kind of hand wave it away to go, yeah, it's more weird black light stuff.
Right. It's just going to absorb the black light.
It did the thing.
I see that they chose to go with the color of Meep from the, I think we decided that was from the classic comics run, because he is the Snow White color in this one. So we get a white Meep in this, which is funny because then we return to one of the other colors later, but not before we do Doctor Who Magazine 283, which featured Beep the Meep in TV action, which automatically I thought this was kind of clever because of its name, because TV action was the periodical that the Third Doctor comics, and maybe even some of the Second Doctor comics, made their original debuts in. So I thought that was kind of clever to use that name. And then featuring the Eighth Doctor and Izzy. Sean, you start this one. This is your one of your favorite Doctors anyway.
It is one of my favorite Doctors, and true to form, he's awesome as always. Artwork took a little getting used to just because of the kind of very quick, down and dirty nature for which this one was drawn. But, minor niggle. Fun story. Yet another kind of insane Beep the Meep plot.
At least he's in an alternate universe this time.
Yes, that is true.
Well, he ends up in an alternate universe.
And the image of him smoking the cigar is one for the ages, I think. Kind of surprised they got away with that. I mean, obviously the UK is far more advanced than us poor Americans when it comes to social issues and things. But I'm sure Mary Winehouse was somewhere going, "Oh no!"
This would have been released in 1999, so I think even here, even here, I think there was still a relaxed feeling about that sort of thing. I think you would have even seen comic characters and not kiddie stuff, but a little more mature comics would have likely had that here in the U.S. as well.
I think it's interesting. There's a trend that kind of runs through these, where all of these stories wind up being a little meta.
Mm-hmm.
A lot meta.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Some
wonder
more
if
than
that's,
others.
yeah, I wonder if that's just the authors feeling a need to break that wall a little more because it's Beep the Meep. That, you know, for all of his vile verbiage, that he's really not that threatening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Although obviously he is threatening. I mean, you don't give somebody who's not threatening 3,000 years in a maximum security prison. But you know, up against the Doctor, he's not much so far, at least that we've seen.
Right.
But I thought it was interesting that they kind of kept revisiting this idea of eschewing reality slightly, or, you know, doing a wink, wink, nudge, nudge while we're at it. Because, you know, Beep's not ridiculous enough on his own. No, we have to. Well, we're going to do a TV show of the TV show that we're doing fan fiction of.
Well, and this one leans into it a lot more than any of the, well, maybe with the exception of the last thing that we'll do, but this one really leans into it heavy. And this particular story actually sort of reminds me of something that you would find in Mad Magazine. It's almost,
even down to the artwork.
Yeah, it's yeah, and that's the first thing that when you were saying just such down and dirty crude, but that's what it feels like. In fact, it almost feels like they were sort of trying to invoke that Mad Magazine lampooning kind of cartoon or comic strip vibe.
It's very much in that style.
Yeah, and I think it very much, the story, especially where it goes, is too. And I think that as Three Americans, even as much British television as I'm familiar with, Three Americans just really can't appreciate probably some of the Easter eggs that are in here. Some of the people that they encounter. Obviously, the ones that I recognize were the Are You Being Served group. But there are a ton of probably 70s and 80s cameo television cameos that just went over my head. In fact, I had to look some of them up just because I was like, there are got to be a lot in here, and there really are. All the way down to Tom Baker playing the Doctor in this alternate universe.
Yep.
Which I thought was a neat little surprise and turnaround.
Although the fact that it wasn't just a one and done little cameo, that the fact that they brought him in and helped him be part of the resolution of the story, I thought was clever too.
And they really kind of bring it back around to the end because Izzy gives him a magazine, which is the one that we first read for Star Beast, which is what Beep the Meep is in. That's right down to the magazine cover and everything. So Beep's debut. Circle. Well, don't think I'm backtracking here because I think Keith convinced me that this is probably as interchangeable. So we went the other way with this. The next one we're going to do is the Ratings War, which, again, we're doing more TV-related stuff. But I kind of felt that when Keith, this was prior to the show, we were talking about it, and Keith mentioned that you could almost interchange this one with the Ratings War because this one's an 8th Doctor story, and the Ratings War is a 6th Doctor story. But when you look at it from a certain perspective, like Beep only remembers the 4th Doctor from in TV action, and so you can kind of relate it that way as well. So I don't think it matters which way, but that's the way we're going to go. So the next one is the
Plus it looks, according to Wiki, it was released in this order too. TV action was released before Ratings.
Oh, it was. Oh, okay, yeah.
So
well, then that makes
there's
sense.
Another good argument for it.
Yeah, there you go.
They all say, who is Doctor?
This is Tim Trelaw.
This is David J. Howe.
I'm Peter Purvis.
I am Sadie Miller. This is Lauren Cornelius.
Larry, it's Fraser.
For all things in the Doctor Who collecting world and beyond, the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. I'm Larry Van Mersbergen, your host, and I've been collecting for 42 years. You're listening to Traveling the Vortex on the Direction Point Podcast Network.
You are invited on an adventure across all of time and space, in a completely random order. It's the Police Box in the Junkyard podcast. Jump in the TARDIS with your hosts,
Eric Gulbranson,
Asad Kheshki,
and
Matthew Kressel.
Explore Doctor Who TV stories, audio adventures, and books, both novels and non-fiction. The Police Box in the Junkyard podcast. It's the entire Whoniverse. On Shuffle. The Police Box in the Junkyard podcast is a member of the Direction Point Network and is available about once a month wherever you find your podcasts. You are listening to Traveling the Vortex.
I do have a synopsis for Ratings War.
Let's hear it.
Beep the Meep is back, and he's found a new channel for his aggression. A brand new series is about to make television history, but can the Doctor prevent his furry foe from turning a docudrama into a crisis? Or will the fluffy wuffy animals get it in the neck? The first shots in the rating war have been fired, and the next one is aimed at your head.
Pum pum pum.
Yeah, that's about.
I had a lot of fun listening to this one.
I did too. This is the one I think though that takes itself the most serious. I don't think that. I mean, there is some humor in here, but it's really kind of a dark, heavy story, and it really kind of gives Meep the very malicious person identity that he is, and takes it, really pushes the envelope on that psychotic, evil little being.
Which, if I had to fault it for anything, it's the fact that because it's a shorter story, it's a lot of the two of them just talking to each other instead of things actually happening. And even down to the fact of the Doctor just bluffing his way into, the resolution, the fact that he didn't actually go and sabotage anything before he showed up, which I thought was clever when it happened, but it's still like he didn't, not really doing anything in this story.
Right, exactly.
But the Sixth Doctor and Meep pairs so well together. It's so fun listening to them banter back and forth that I didn't mind it.
I agree.
See, I kind of float back and forth on that one. On the one hand, I absolutely agree that Beep, mainly because he likes to listen to himself talk, I think. So he and the Sixth Doctor are very well matched in that regard. And having them sit around and talk is enjoyable. But from an overall plot standpoint, there wasn't much here. And so we get the shorter story, but then it felt like fully half of that story was the on-air talent reporter, or should I say talentless reporter, prattling on about this reality show that apparently, like myself, nobody cared about. And then there's this was really, when it started, I'll be honest, I wasn't sure that we hadn't already listened to this. And I thought, why does this sound familiar? And then it finally hit me that it's the Seventh Doctor story that's set in a TV or a radio station with a reality program, like a gladiatorial combat. I can't remember the name of it.
No, I know the one you're talking about, but I can't remember. It has a number in it. Maybe it'll come to me later.
Yeah, that kept coming back in and intruding, like, we've done this before, and I had to, like, shut up, brain, just go for the rest. Meep's here, and it feels weird to say this, but after a while, Meep even started to grate on my nerves just a little bit, the voice, and I had that horrible thought when the Doctor says the line. It was like, I kind of think, well, and this was, of course, I revealed pre-podcast that I did these completely out of order. And so the first thing that I exposed myself to for this archive was, who on earth is Beep the Meep?
That's so the worst way to do it, because you spoiled it for yourself.
Yeah, I spoiled everything. And Beep has the comment about, well, I think, would you go to television? He says, I don't need to go to television. That would be a step backwards. How can you improve upon the medium of comics or whatever, however he phrases it, which I thought, was very funny considering he is going to TV.
Yeah.
And if I was to make a comment, quote unquote, in universe about that Beep the Meep interview, it would be like, well, I guess money talks. And then he would come back with, no, it was just a really good script. At any rate, but I kind of thought, yeah, I think maybe he's right. I think maybe comics is kind of the perfect format for Beep, because in a story, I don't know that I think without the visuals, I don't think he works quite as well. And in audio, he was a little grating and annoying just because of the, that's what he sounds like. He sounds like a squeaky chipmunk. And I'm not sure how to go on TV. I'll be really curious to see if they can pull it off or not. But comics is kind of the sweet spot for that. So,
I think
a little bit of a mixed feeling. I still enjoyed it. I don't want to take that away from it. But.
I see where you're coming from, and I think that comics is certainly the best. But for me, it worked really well in this. In fact, I was a little surprised. I kind of went into this with a little bit of trepidation, thinking that it wasn't going to, even though we listened to the Starbeast audio adaptation, but when you're working from something previous and you have the benefit of having already read the comics, so you kind of have the visualization in your head is one thing. But this one, I kind of thought, is this going to work very well? And I thought it worked really well. I agree that it doesn't really go anywhere because everything is kind of, from two perspectives, everything's predestined, because Beep's been, orchestrating this for what he says, like 6 months. He says he's had this guy under his control, but also the doctor's also been, 3 steps ahead of Meep as well. So all of this worked out in the way that it was just had to work out because both of them had plans in place. But I'm like Keith. I liked the interaction between Beep and the Sixth Doctor, and I think that besides the Fourth Doctor, the Sixth Doctor is the only one that I think, in audio anyway, would play off as well as this. And so I really I appreciated that. I liked that about it. And I like how dark it got. I like that he talked about how he got out of the film when the girl was watching the print that the Warith had, and he ends up killing her to get out because she called him Cuddly Wuddly or something. I don't remember exactly what she said. Snuggly something. Anyway, that was just hearing that. I was like, oh, that's pretty gruesome. I mean, that's just I think it talked about how her brain seeped out of her nose or something. I thought, oh wow, that's pretty intense. And in the comics, the stakes are high, but they don't seem near as high as they do in this audio. And I think part of that's because of the dramatization of it and taking itself a little more serious really kind of makes the gravity of the situation a little more desperate and a little more real. And so I really liked that about it as well.
Yeah, I'll give you that one.
I think I don't know how well this story would have worked had I not known who Beep the Meep was. Mm-hmm. If this was just, I picked up this story as the freebie like it was originally released and had not read anything comic wise, I don't think I probably would have liked it as much. But knowing what Beep looks like, knowing what Beep is like, I think that helped me enjoy the story a little bit more.
Well, and that's it. Essentially, it's it's a freebie. It's essentially one giant Easter egg of a story that here's this thing that we did, and some of you will remember this. And as Glenn said, the kind of back and forth between them, where it's all predestined, is almost Curse of Fatal Death. Well, I went back and talked to the architect, and it's a lot happening with nothing going on because you're talking about the events that happened off screen. So. But it's Meep, so it works.
And the Sixth Doctor, I think, was very enjoyable. Maybe just because of other homework that's coming up, but being in a Sixth Doctor headspace, it suited him so well. And I really enjoyed his speech at the end with all of the meta references they crammed in there. That was really nice.
That was fun.
And true. I mean,
yes,
it does really kind of, the audio is a better medium for the Sixth Doctor.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's move on and talk about, even though Sean's already kind of brought some of it up, but there was in Doctor Who magazine issue 419, which was only, well, it was 2010, so 13 years ago, but it's probably the most recent, besides the Star Beast that's coming out, thing that's featured Beep the Meep. And it's Who on Earth is Beep the Meep? And Who on Earth, I think, is a ongoing segment in was an ongoing segment in Doctor Who magazine. And this time they chose to do almost kind of a in-universe, in IRL conversation with Beep. So it's the interviewer reviewing Beep, or interviewing Beep, and getting his basically going over his life story and talking about where he is from now. They recap the
because he turned 30. It looks like.
Yeah, that's right. It was
quite the exclusive.
His 30th. Of course, then for the most part, it's a recap of a lot of things that already happened. We get the discussing about the event in Blackpool, or Black Castle. Sorry, not Blackpool. Black Castle, which is the first one from the Star Beast, and then move on to talk about the little short. In fact, I think this is where I had discovered the little cutout and went back and found it. And that's when I added it, is after I'd read this. But talking about the little, how he got the 3,000 years, and then after he was paroled. So they talk a little bit about Star Beast 2, and then moves on to they even talk about the ratings war and the they make a couple. I should mention there are a couple of other and this makes a slight mention of those, but not enough that I felt that it still even needed to have been included. But Beep does appear in a couple of other things: Party Animals and A Life of Matter. Life of Matter and Death, but they're little cameos. They're like little, like, blink and you miss him for one, and one where I think he has like one little balloon of dialogue, but it's almost kind of a in-joke or a cameo, cameo joke. And so I kind of left those out, but this article does, at least to Party Animals, refers to Party Animals, which is one of those. So I thought it was kind of fun, especially for a 30th, to do something a little meta and a little out of character. I don't know that I would consider this canonical, if we're going to count Beep the Meep as canon. I don't know that I would keep that. But going to what Sean was talking about earlier, I just thought how funny 13 years ago this reviewer's asking him if he's done comic strips, he's done audio, is TV next. And I got giggling when I was talking about this. And it says, I never really thought of Doctor Who on TV as being canonical. And then he says, I'm afraid. And anyway, they'd probably do me in CGI, which they're completely doing. And I'm giggling at this. And I had to finally, like, my family's sitting there looking at me like, what are you doing? Because I'm reading this. And I was like, so I had to relay it to. And they all thought it was kind of funny, too, that it got so meta unintentionally so many years ago.
One has to wonder if RDT, obviously was a big reader of Doctor Who magazine back in the day, and did that stick with him?
Mm-hmm.
And as he was writing the script, he was giggling.
Maybe so.
I'll show you, Beep. I'm totally going to do you in CGI.
Well, I also love the fact that he calls out that, Star Beast 2, and it was great to work in color because, the first story was in black and white, even though they colorized and colored him wrong.
Mm-hmm.
He's not blue.
Which we discussed.
That made me laugh and think of you, Glenn.
Mm-hmm. And then they show the little shot of him here in chains, and he's purple.
Yet a different color.
Yep.
And then just the fact that he gets free and kills the interviewer.
Mm-hmm, right. I mean, they could only end that way. It's like the perfect ending.
Yeah.
Ken Book was the interviewer. R.I.P. Ken.
R.I.P.
Overall, Beep the Meep, I think, is a fun character that I don't think you can do a lot with. I think what they've done so far, I don't think Beep could be a reoccurring bad guy in the way that they've done a lot of the reoccurring bad guys. But I think that the way that they've treated him in the mediums that he's been in so far, I think are a lot of fun and nice little nods to the character, that probably became endeared upon in those, that first Star Beast story that people probably read when they were kids and clapped onto that. And it'll be interesting to see how RTD adapts it for television and does Beep on TV. I think that there's room for one more foray into Doctor Who canon. I think that works. I think that hopefully it works. But I don't see them being able to go on beyond this and make Beep a recurring character, even in television.
Yeah, I agree. And I think he's really going to wind up being an adaptation of the first story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially after reading everything else. I don't see what else he could potentially come up with to tell a story with Beep the Meep. I feel like we've gone on down all the avenues we can go. And I'd like to be pleasantly surprised, but I think even if it is just an adaptation, I think it will be good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I tell you, Beep really, he's kind of a Harry Mudd Star Trek level villain where, you get one or two appearances, maybe three, if you can really push it out and come, create something special. And all of these little appearances essentially amount to the same. It's the same get up, Beep is, cute and cuddly, but he's harboring this, this horrific visage of, pain and murder, and I'm going to kill everybody. And so I don't think they'll do this in the TV special. I think obviously it's going to be. I think it's the Star Beast. It's not the Star Beast 3. So
right.
I think we're going to get an adaptation of it. As much as I would like to see an extended, let's see where Beep's at now, 30 years further on. And, but I kind of would like to see Beep team up with somebody who genuinely does pose a threat. I think that would be kind of because once you see what his shtick is, he's not going to surprise you with that again.
Mm-hmm. Right.
He's never going to get one over on the Doctor by being cute.
Right.
No
one's going to believe that again. Yeah.
And so therefore he needs to have a new approach. And so if Beep came along and was backed with, an army of Ogrons, where he had brute strength behind him.
Yeah.
Then suddenly that could be interesting if he was not in a position of weakness, which is the other thing that we've seen throughout these appearances, where he's been forced to rely on being cute because he has fallen. But if he was already the Grand High, or whatever his title is, and had the might and the armies to back him up, I think that could be a really interesting thing, especially if that was the reveal at the end, where this army is advancing and everything's horrible and this huge strife, and the Doctor strides in to find who's responsible for all this, and the throne spins around and it's Beep the Meep. That's how you suck the wind out of everybody's sails with that one.
Yeah.
But one thing that this series of stories did do, how excited are we? And the answer should be very, for a Donna Beep exchange.
Yeah.
Because she's going to call him cute when she gets over the initial shock, and he's going to go off, and she's going to give it right back to him. And I can't wait.
Yeah, that'll be fun to see.
I have built this up too much in my mind now because it's going to be epic. You want to talk verbal sparring.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Rupert Booth.
I am known as Paul Furry.
And my name is Barry Williams.
Together, we host Time Ram.
Time Ram's a cruel mistress.
It's a random number generator.
That also.
We roll a number from 1 to 13, and that's our Doctor. Then 1 to 300 for the story, and then we ram them together.
Even if it doesn't make sense.
cruel, I tell you.
Time Round, putting the wrong doctors in the wrong stories, so you don't have to.
You're listening to Travelling the Vortex.
Hello, fellow time travelers, and welcome to the Doctor Who Target Book Club podcast, the only podcast to discuss, in story order, all the Doctor Who novelizations. My name is Tony Whitt, and every 2 weeks or so, I'm joined by a 2 to 3 person discussion panel, including our so-called expert who's been a Who fan since 1979. That would be me. We also get the views of intermediate, casual, and novice fans who either have never seen the show or who have never read these books until these podcasts, including
Dalton Hughes
and
Alison Fitz-Seyfried.
You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you find good podcasts, or even ones like ours. You're listening to Traveling the Vortex, a Direction Point podcast.
All right, Sean, well, what do we got coming up on the schedule?
Well, coming up next on the schedule, we go from one Adversary Archive to another with the Celestial Toymaker, or as Glenn has it listed, the Toymaker, probably because it was such a long title that he typed into our schedule here.
There's a reason for that, but we'll talk about it on the next show.
Oh, well, there's your hook, kiddies. You'll have to tune in to find out.
That's right.
We'll be reviewing Big Finish's audio adventure, The Nightmare Fair, which is Lost Stories 1, along with, for extra credit, the Target novelization by Graham Williams of The Nightmare Fair. Doctor Who Magazine number 192 has a short story, A Brief Encounter, called Games. And Doctor Who Magazine number 56 has The Greatest Gamble, which is a comic. And we will cover all of that as part of an archive for our favorite troubling toy maker. Then we return to Once and Future in the next one, along with Doomsday. We get the next 2 hours of what's happening in those 60th anniversary specials. And then we return to Season 6B with the Second Doctor Adventures 2, which is a set from Big Finish.
Lots to look forward to, and you can find us on our website, travelingthevortex.com. If you get any value out of this podcast, why not consider putting some value back into it and become a patron of the podcast? When you become a patron, you unlock more audios and specials from us. Also, please consider giving us a 5-star review wherever you subscribe to this podcast. And then make sure you join us on the various forms of social media. We are on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and we're on TikTok. Probably soon to be on Threads too, since everybody went to Threads. So yeah, look for us on there as well, I'm sure. Anyway, anything else we want to discuss or touch on before we close this one out? If not, until next time, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing you.
Thanks for listening.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.
Direction point! Direction point!
A Doctor Who podcast network.